Yeah. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is a nice day, a wonderful day, and we're going to make it a better day, actually. But what I wanted to talk about that we read this coming Shabbat, which most of the Jews in the world are actually not going to hear it in the synagogue because due to the coronavirus, most synagogues are closed. But it doesn't mean that we don't read for ourselves the verses of the Torah that would be read in the synagogue and apply the message even more than just listening to the reader read. So the Shabbos, this Shabbos is called Parshas HaChodesh, where we read the portion about the new month, about Rosh Chodesh, and the month of Nisan. So that's where we're going to go. So here's the interesting thing. The Jewish people as a people did not get their commandments from God until they were in Egypt. It is true that there were some individual Jews who had commandments, starting with Abraham. Abraham had the special mitzvah of Brit Milah, of circumcision. Yaakov had the prohibition against eating the Gid HaNosha, the sciatic nerve. But nevertheless, as a group, the Jewish people all as one, they did not get mitzvot until they were in Egypt. So this is even before they stood at Mount Sinai. When they were still enslaved in Egypt, God appeared to Moshe, and that's what we're going to be reading in the extra additional portion. So if we were to be in Shul, we would take out two Sifrei Torah, two Torah scrolls. In the first Torah scroll, we would be reading the combination portion of Vayakel Pekudei. And in the second Torah, we would go back to the portion of Bo, which is earlier in Exodus, and we would read the portion of HaChodesh. And over there, we find the first mitzvah that God gave to the Jewish people. The first mitzvah that God gave to the Jewish people was the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh, to consider Rosh Chodesh a sanctified holy day. And not only that, but also to appoint the month of Nisan, which is the month in which Pesach falls, as the first month of the year. So it says that God spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be to you the head of months, the first of the months of your year." Now, many people have a question on this, and it sounds on the surface a bit confusing. The reason for that is because most people refer to the Jewish New Year as Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the head of the year, the beginning of the year, the month of Tishrei, the first day of Tishrei, and that's how we count the Jewish year. We are now in the year 5780, and that started on Rosh Hashanah, which Rosh Hashanah is in the fall, even before the fall, but it's the month of Tishrei. And here, the Torah is saying to the people of Israel that from now, the new month or the new year starts with the first month, the month of Nisan. So how do you have two heads of the year? So that's one question that we are going to address today. The second question that we're going to address is, why is Rosh Chodesh so important to the Jewish community that we make Rosh Chodesh into a minor holiday? So it's interesting when you refer to the Midrash says that when God created the world, he chose the month of Tishrei to be the first month of the year. And when he chose in Jacob, Yaakov, and his children, then he designated as Nisan, the month of Nisan, as the first month of the year. And that's why when you look in the Torah readings, you will find that when the months did not yet have names, but they were enumerated by numbers, just like the days of the week in Hebrew don't have days. You know, in English we say Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Even in Yiddish we say Sonntag, Montag, Dienstag, Mittwoch, Donnerstag, Freitag, and Shabbos. But in the Hebrew language, even today, the first day of the week is called Yom Rishon, which means the first day. Yom Sheni is the second day. Yom Shlishi is the third day, until Shabbat is Shabbat. Similarly, when it came to the months, the Torah refers to the month of Nisan, which is the month when Passover falls, as Chodesh Rishon, the first month. The month of Iyar is Chodesh Sheni, is the second month. And Rosh Hashanah is the first day of the seventh month. So the question is, how could there be these two beginnings? One of the interesting things that we find is a story that the Talmud tells us in Rosh Hashanah, that there was the sages, the wise men of Athens, who met with Rabbi Yehoshua. And the Greek philosophers challenged the Talmudic sage Rabbi Yehoshua, and they asked him to identify the exact place where the center of the world is. And Rabbi Yehoshua held up his finger and he said, it's right here. You can take ropes and measure it if you wish. In other words, being that the world is a sphere, so every point in it could be a center, which means every point can be a beginning. Similarly, when it comes to the year, for instance, according to the secular calendar, we're in the year 2020. The new year of 2020 begins January 1. But let's say if your birthday is July 1, so your age doesn't turn automatically on January 1, it goes according to your actual birthday. Similarly, this is what the Torah is saying here. What the Torah is saying here is that if you're looking at the birthday of the world starts on Rosh Hashanah, and that's why this year is 5,780. But Passover, Pesach, is the birthday of the Jewish people. And the birthday of the Jewish people is on Nisan. And since the Torah was for the sake of the Jewish people, for that reason, from that time and on, the month of Nisan is referred to as Chodesh Harishon, as the first month. Having said that, we find something else as well. And that is that there's a huge difference between the month of Tishrei and the month of Nisan. The month of Tishrei speaks about the natural order of the world. God created the world and instilled within it nature, even though nature is an instrument from God, but God wanted that nature should dominate. Yet, when Passover came, God introduced the miraculous. Miraculous means the force and the power that transcends nature, something that is higher than nature. It's interesting that when the Jews in Babylonia began to assign names to each month, so the first month was called Nisan. Nisan comes from the word nes, which means miracles, because this was a month of miracles. So that is what the Midrash is saying, that the Jewish people, even though we are within nature, but our life has to be one that transcends nature. Through the observance of mitzvahs and the study of Torah, we can transcend nature and reveal the true essence of the divine into our world. And a miracle doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a miracle like the splitting of the sea. A miracle means that we go beyond our natural finite limitations and we go beyond our own expectations. And that is the meaning of the month of Nisan, Pesach, being the first month for the Jew, because that's what the Jew is expected to do. Yet, we find that Rosh Chodesh is considered to be a very special day. And Rosh Chodesh basically means the birth of the new moon. And why is it that the Jewish calendar is so closely connected to the lunar cycle? Why is it that the moon is so important? And again, we quote another Medrash, that the Medrash says that Jews are, or it says actually Israel is similar to the moon, and therefore we count according to this cycle of the moon. In what way are we close to the moon or likened to the moon? So one of the things about the moon is that the moon is cyclical. The moon is born on the first day of the month. It's the new moon, and it's just a sliver then, and it eventually reveals itself until you come to the 15th day of the month, when it becomes a full moon. And then after that, it begins to recede until it totally disappears, and then the cycle starts again. And basically, what the Torah is saying, what God is saying to Moshe is that the history of the Jewish people will be one of cycles. There will be times that we will just emerge, then we will peak, and we will come to the greatest level of harmony with the sun. We will project light, and then there could be times that we will recede and our light will be hidden. But it won't be for long, but it'll reveal itself again. That will be true until the coming of Mashiach, because it says when Mashiach comes, then the cycle of the moon will be one that it'll always be full. It'll always shine the ultimate light. So here's what we have in this week, the takeaway from this week's additional Torah portion. Number one, that we Jews stand above nature, that we are the month of Nisan, the month of miracles, and therefore the expectations that we have within our own life that the Torah has from us is to go beyond nature, even though we're still within nature, but to go beyond nature. And the second thing is that things are not always going to be a straight line. It's not going to be linear. It's going to be ups and downs. It's going to be cyclical. But at the end of the day, it'll be a full moon. It'll be a full projection of light, and that this light will be shining with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a great, wonderful Wednesday.